The Prime Minister's roadmap on track. This time next week, restrictions in England will be eased, with shops and pub gardens open for business.
On Monday the 12th, I will be going to the pub myself and cautiously but irreversibly raising a pint of beer to my lips.
But he urged people not to be complacent, offering twice weekly rapid COVID tests for everyone in England. Holidays abroad are still stalled for now, although a traffic light system for foreign destinations will be in place when jetting off is finally allowed. And in Scotland, lockdown has already been relaxed, with hairdressers fully booked this bank holiday.
This is ITV News with Kylie, Pentelow.
Good evening. England's lockdown will ease as planned next Monday. It means shops, gyms and hairdressers can all reopen, as can outdoor hospitality, with the Prime Minister saying he'd be one of the first to have a pint at the pub. He also outlined the steps he said will be crucial to keep us out of lockdown, including mass testing and the possible rollout of vaccine passports. Here's our political reporter, Shihab Khan.
We are all longing to get back to doing things that were once part of our daily routine, whether that's going for a drink, having a meal out, doing some exercise, or even getting that long-awaited haircut. Today, the Prime Minister told us that we are now one step closer to that happening again.
We set out our roadmap and we're sticking in it. And I want to stress that we see nothing in the present data that makes us think that we will have to deviate. And on Monday the 12th, I will be going to the pub myself and cautiously but irreversibly raising a pint of beer.
As restrictions are lifted to avoid going back into lockdown, the government is reviewing the use of COVID passports, which might be needed for a range of activities. The Prime Minister says they'll show a number of things.
Number one is your immunity. So if you had the virus before in the last, or certainly in the last 6 months, you'll have the antibodies. Number two, obviously, is vaccination status. But number three is testing.
And that will remain a key part of the government's plans to avoid a spike in cases. From later this week, a new scheme will be launched where everyone in England will have access to 2 rapid coronavirus tests every 7 days. How much compliance do you need for that to actually work? And how can you be confident that it will work, given that compliance levels of test, trace and isolate was so low?
Lateral flow tests are effective at picking up people who are infectious. They're not 100% effective, so a negative doesn't mean you absolutely haven't got it, but a positive is useful to identify those people who then need to isolate. And you're right that testing alone isn't what matters. It matters if you're positive, and it's a true positive, you isolate.
But experts are urging some caution on those proposals.
It's terribly, terribly hard to test oneself. The temptation is not to do it properly, not because we're bad people, but because it hurts. So there's a tendency to underestimate. There also might be a tendency, to do it less if you think that might end up with you being, laid off work or unable to go to work. More testing is better than less testing. But let's not, deceive ourselves into thinking that it's anything that it's not.
As the government continues to take us out of lockdown, finding the balance between easing restrictions and keeping us safe remains the challenge. Shihab Khan, ITV News.
So by this time next week, many leisure and hospitality destinations across England will be open to customers again. Paul Davis has spent the day speaking to business owners in Essex, looking forward to welcoming people back after months of closure.
Looking forward to some more human company? Well, keepers at Colchester Zoo say many of their animals have actually missed the visitors. But there are more pressing reasons to welcome next Monday's reopening. The cost of looking after the zoo park and its residents continued while revenue dried up. Now, with reserve funds exhausted, next Monday can't come a moment too soon.
The savings don't last forever, and if we don't start seeing visitors through the gate soon, we would have been in trouble. So this is really the point where we needed to open, and we're just really disappointed we couldn't open for Easter to see a bit more income. But the fact that we've got a date is enough to start with.
In Colchester town centre, Michelle Loriger is also relieved to hear confirmation that 1 week today she can welcome clients back to her hairdressing business after a lockdown closure that's been more than just a financial struggle.
Mentally, I don't think I could do another one. This one's been really tough. I think last year when the sun was shining, everybody was okay, but this time when it's cold and everybody's just indoors, it's been really, really tough.
You don't have to go far, though, to find businesses who believe the government's roadmap has left them behind. With just 6 outside tables, the landlord of Ye Olde Albion at Rowhedge Wharf says reopening under current rules is just not viable.
If you get 12 people sitting here, 6 couples for instance, then the sums just don't add up. If they have 2 drinks an hour, you know, the sums don't add up for putting on the staff, paying our mortgage, paying our bills and everything else. They just seriously don't add up.
For many, though, an important step towards brighter days is just a week away. The holiday park on Mersey Island was eerily quiet today, but not for much longer.
Oh, it's going to feel fantastic, you know. When you see people arrive, they arrive with smiles on their faces, and that's really what we're here for.
And the overriding hope is that when these signs get changed next week, they'll never be needed again. Paul Davis, ITV News, Colchester.
Well, for anyone hoping to book a summer holiday abroad, there were more questions than answers today. The government confirmed the introduction of the widely trailed traffic light system for foreign destinations, but didn't say where or when we'd be able to travel. Here's Martha Fairley.
Many people may be dreaming of a summer holiday in the sun, but the picture is still unclear on when we can travel abroad. Anyone hoping for confirmation they'd be able to get away soon, told by the Prime Minister he can't yet say if non-essential travel will resume on the 17th of May.
We're hopeful, but I do not wish to give hostages to fortune or to underestimate the difficulties that we're seeing in some of the destination countries that people might want to go to. I wish I could give you more on that.
So we haven't really heard.
Disappointment for Shirley and Richard Avery, left in limbo over plans for a trip to Spain in May.
Our flights are booked, so I can't cancel or change them or do anything as yet. So we'll just sit and wait again.
Sit tight again.
Yeah.
When travel does resume, the government's planning to introduce a so-called traffic light system. Travellers arriving in the UK from countries rated green will not be required to isolate, although pre-departure and post-arrival tests will be needed. For countries classed as amber or red, the restrictions will remain as they are, with arrivals required to isolate or enter quarantine. But the travel industry says it needs advance warning of changes to avoid a repeat of last year's cancellation chaos.
Obviously, timing is going to be key. We need to know that if the government has an idea that a destination potentially will be going amber or red, then we need that information early, not 12 hours notice.
But the last-minute rush to book a holiday abroad is yet to take off. Martha Fairley, ITV News.
And Shehab is here. So Shehab, on the one hand, there seem to be positive news in the short term, but then it doesn't sound like things will be back to normal or normal as we knew it by the summer.
Yeah, it depends what you define as normal. I think that's probably shifted a fair bit in the last year or so. What we know, what we heard from the Prime Minister at the press conference was that they're trialling this idea of COVID passports. We know that there are 9 events that will be participating in those trials. We could get to a point where you require a COVID certificate or a COVID passport, depending on how you define it, that will determine whether you've had the vaccine or if you're immune or if you've had a test to do certain things. We don't know exactly what the plan is with that. I tried to press the Prime Minister during the press conference today. We didn't really get an answer, so we'll have to wait and see how that's applied. What we do know is that you'll be eligible to get 2 rapid coronavirus tests a week if you live in England from next week. That again, that's part of the new normal. We may be doing that for years to come, but that is something that is coming into play. In terms of social distancing and the measures that are in place at the moment, things like face masks being worn, for example, what we know is that a review is underway, that the government is looking at the data to determine whether or not it's something that will be enforced for months to come. Whether or not it will be enforced in summer, we don't know for sure. The truth is, I don't really have an answer for you. And I know that's not very helpful. But what we've learned today is that there are a number of measures that are being considered and that there's a lot on the table at the moment, but we don't have any definitive answers as of yet.
OK, Shihab, for now, thank you very much. Well, in Scotland, hairdressers, garden centres and homeware shops reopened today. It's been 4 months since Scots have been able to have a haircut. Many salons were fully booked ahead of today's reopening. Non-essential click and collect services are also allowed to resume ahead of a wider retail and hospitality reopening on the 26th of April.
I feel really good. I'm so pleased. It's been a long time, too long.
It lifts your mood. You feel good about yourself. You have a wee spring in your step.
It's made a humongous difference to us being able to come back that couple of weeks earlier. We were meant to be 26th of April, but we managed to get a wee bit quicker. So for business, it's been phenomenal, and for the clients, it's been amazing.
Some other news now, and a man has been charged tonight with causing the death of a 2-week-old baby boy in Walsall. Kyron Lee Morris was in his pram when it was struck by a car in Walsall yesterday. In a statement earlier, his parents said, "We didn't get to keep you for long, but we are happy we had the chance to meet you." 34-year-old James Paul Davis will appear in court tomorrow. Police searching for missing 19-year-old London student Richard Okorogeye say a body has been found in Epping Forest. Specially trained officers are supporting his family. And large parts of England and Scotland had snow flurries today after bathing in sunshine just 24 hours ago. These were the scenes in Oldham as residents there woke up to temperatures of around 3 degrees. The Arctic winds responsible for the snow are expected to continue into the week. On to sport now, and in the Premier League there was a setback for Everton's hopes of making the Champions League next season. Despite taking the lead against Crystal Palace at Goodison Park, Everton conceded a late equaliser to Miti Batshuayi. It finished 1-1 and 2 points dropped means Everton stay in 8th place. But it was a great night for West Ham. They've climbed back to 4th place in the table after a 3-2 win at Wolves, thanks to one of the solo goals of the season from England's Jesse Lingard. The win takes West Ham above Chelsea. And finally for this evening, history was made today as Rebecca Welsh became the first female official to referee a men's match in the Football League. The 37-year-old, who started refereeing a decade ago, took charge of today's League Two match between Harrogate Town and Port Vale. She showed 2 yellow cards as Port Vale won 2-0. Well, that's it for now. The national weather forecast is coming up next for you. But from all of us here on your bank holiday team, enjoy what's left of the evening. Bye-bye for now.